and welcome back to a new video. For this video, I had a new idea of a series that I would love to do, but it depends on whether or not you guys like it. So here's how it's gonna work. I found a couple of AITA posts that have to do with tech, CPUs, gaming PCs, all that good stuff. And I thought it would be really fun if we would just read them together. I'd give you my opinion and then we'll see if my opinion is actually the same as the Redditors or if I disagree with what people are saying, and you guys can share your feedback in the comments as well. If you don't know what AITA Reddit is, it's a Reddit thread where people post situations where they think they might have done something wrong, or sometimes they think they have done nothing wrong, but they are looking for validation for these scenarios. So the premise is, am I the asshole? And then people vote on, yes you are, everyone sucks here, or not the asshole. And that is how we're going to be doing that as well. If you like this format, make sure to let me know so I know if I should be recording more of these. All right, here we go with our first one. AITA for refusing to put together my friend's PC even after I said I would. Usually I would be inclined to say yes, but let's see what they actually wrote because this is a longer one. They said, so my former friend Ryan bought all the necessary parts for a custom PC build. I have some experience in that area, so about a week ago he asked if I could do it for him. I really didn't want to and tried to tell him so, but he whined about always spending the money on the parts and not having enough to take it to a professional to get it built. I reluctantly agreed and allowed him to drop off the parts. No payment or time frame was specified. I figured I'd be just doing him a solid. Already starting with the former friend, this is not good. Since this isn't a project I wanted to do in the first place, and it doesn't look like I'll be getting anything for my labor, I take my time on doing it. Within a day, I got a text from Ryan asking if the PC was finished. I told him that he needs to be patient. I work from home and I have a life to live. He texted me multiple times asking for updates. I finally told him I haven't even gotten started and he needs to chill. I'll get to it when I have downtime. The fourth day, I get a very strange message from him that vaguely accuses me of wanting to keep the parts for myself to build a supercomputer, as he puts it, and him demanding that I work on it because it was Sunday and nobody ever does things on Sunday except watch TV. By that point, I had screwed in the power supply. I was going to do more over a few Judge Judy episodes, but that last text solidified my resolve to take my sweet time. I muted him and watched TV. Now, there's more to this, but I'll just say, I feel like if you are agreeing to help a friend, taking forever is usually not the best way to honor that. Like, either give them a stern no, or be very clear that you are busy and it is going to take like 3 weeks or however much you think it's going to take when you are agreeing to do it. Seems like this was a miscommunication issue that probably could have been prevented. It goes on though. That night, I get a few messages from my other friends asking me if I had seen Ryan's Instagram page lately. I said no. They prompted me to check his page, and his most recent post was a rant that accused me of stealing from him and not giving him his PC. The worst part is that some of our mutual friends had commented and seemed to believe his story. I immediately texted Ryan and told him to take down the post and apologize, or he'd forget the favor I was doing for him. He asked me to just build the whole thing tonight and drop it off at his house in the morning. At this point, I wouldn't have done it anymore, but okay. Ryan has very little tech savvy other than clicking the Steam icon to go play video games. He has no idea the amount of hours it takes to properly build a PC. I'm actually surprised that he got all the parts he needed. I decided to throw in the towel. I agreed to return the PC to him in the morning like he asked. He thought I was agreeing to put the PC parts together. I didn't bother correcting him since I was done with his The next morning, I went to his apartment and handed him the box of parts. I told him not to go looking for any favors from me again and left. I got a few choice messages afterwards, and I just learned that a few days later he had began posting about me again. He convinced several of my friends that I am a terrible person, although a few of my closer friends have sided with me. Consensus is pretty split here. I need to know. AITA? Okay, so I think this is a tough one, but I feel like I said earlier, I think this could have been avoided. So if you are being asked by a friend to do something and you don't want to do it for several reasons, then either you should be giving them a very strong no, or you should be lining out what they are to expect from you if you are to take on that favor. Having said that though, I don't think that the way this Redditor was writing about this favor is how I would think friends talk about favors, because I feel like people generally like to take a lot and not give a lot. And if you are friends with someone and you know something or you are skilled in a field that they are not, I feel like it's really good if you do them a favor like that and then they help you with something else. That's just how reciprocal friendships work. And I feel like that's something we as a society are doing less and less of, so I'm kind of split on that issue. However, through how this story developed, I think it becomes very clear that this initial miscommunication that they had, where either it should have been a strong no or a, I will do it, but it's going to take a month, or however long the Redditor thinks it's going to take, it quickly turned into accusations and then being a little bit petty instead of pouring some grace over it or explaining. Like, this person could have taken Ryan to the side and been like, hey, listen, it actually takes me like, I don't know how long it takes them to build a PC, okay? Everybody's a little bit different, but let's say it takes me 6 hours to build a PC. And I also want to have a little bit of free time, so the earliest I will get it to you is in 2 weeks. Please don't ask me again before that, instead of just muting him, right? However, Ryan is of course at fault here for taking to the public, being accusational, and also not asking in a way that friends would usually do. It seems very transactional, where it's like, hey, I want this favor to be done and I want it done yesterday. That is not how you treat a friend either. So I feel like everybody sucks here a little bit. However, Ryan definitely sucks more than the original Redditor. Let's see what the other people thought. So he got the vote, not the a-hole, which I understand, but I'm curious what other people have said. First person said, NTA. I know people that build computers as a hobby, and it takes a long time to put every little piece together, make sure that they all work properly. You said you would do it for free, then he started making lies about you online. I wouldn't have finished it either. The OP responds and says, sad thing is, Ryan could have taught himself if he was that desperate. I taught myself how to do it, and after upgrades and building one for a friend from scratch for free, I offered, because buying and picking up the parts yourself and building it can easily save you $250. I agree. I think building a PC is a useful skill in today's world, so that's generally something I approve of. However, let's not forget you agreed to do that favor. So if you agreed to do a favor, you should live up to that, I feel like. Next person says, NTA. The fact that he would purchase all of the parts without having the skills to build his own computer is confusing in the first place. What did he think was going to happen? It would just magically come together like a puzzle? You tried to say no when he asked, but he kept pressing for it until you gave in. No payment was discussed and you didn't even want to do the job, so this was clearly a very big favor. I agree. There's no way he should have expected you to do it in a 4-hour time frame. I also agree. However, I think this is because he doesn't know how long this usually takes. This person goes on, I think his lack of knowledge about the skill set is getting the best of him. Yes. He didn't know what was required, he didn't try and figure it out, he didn't understand what all he had there, as evidenced by his accusation regarding you keeping the parts to build a supercomputer, and he was way in over his head. This was a completely irresponsible purchase on his part. All of that, combined with a blind sense of entitlement, is a recipe for disaster. I'd say let him calm down and then try to explain to him what exactly he was asking for, but it honestly sounds better like you'd be better cutting Ryan loose. So I agree with that. I think that ship unfortunately has sailed. I think at the point where someone takes to Instagram or other social media to basically blast your ass, that's where you should really either have a very strong conversation and expect a really good apology, or that relationship is unsalvageable, because that's just a weird way to deal with issues. And if I'm honestly always on the edge, having to expect my friends to tear me down on social media, like, I think that would not work for me personally. Here's a couple more that say everyone sucks here, so let's see if they're more on the line that I'm saying. This person says, everyone sucks here. It doesn't take that long to build a PC. It also isn't hard to learn. If he can order the parts individually, he can watch some videos and figure out how they go together. I definitely think Ryan was more the a-hole, but I also think it's kind of a douche move to agree to do a task you know someone wants done ASAP, and then both A, not set expectations around an ETA, and B, take your sweet time. Like, so much of this could have been avoided if OP was just like, fine, I'll build it. Don't expect it to be done until next weekend. Yes! This is exactly how I feel as well, and I'm a little bit sad that this actually doesn't have more upvotes. It only has like 13 votes or so. Here's another one, and that'll be the last one for this one, and I'm curious what you guys say in the comment. Everyone sucks here. You didn't want to do this project to begin with. You should have said no and stayed firm. I understand that they are your friend, but that doesn't mean you were obligated to help. You should have discussed payment and time frame before you started this project. All you had to say was, I'll do it for free as a favor, but since I'm not charging, it will take longer. I can have it done in X number of days. He took it too far by making up a lie about you, but honestly, if all you're telling him is, chill, it will get done, then I can see how he might have thought what he did. You need to learn how to communicate better. Yes, so I think both of them need to learn how to communicate better. I still think Ryan did the worst thing by involving other people that this wasn't about. However, both of you could have fixed that situation much easier, personally speaking. Here's our second one. AITA for refusing to help my computer illiterate father. Yes, maybe. So my father, 61 male, is completely computer illiterate, despite my brother and I trying to teach him. It's not that he's stupid, it's just that he's too ridiculously stubborn to learn and constantly spouts about how easy it was back in the 80s. When we try to help him anymore, it comes down to just us doing it for him or him yelling at us, even on job applications. It becomes ridiculously frustrating to us and we are reluctant to help him. I have even went as far as getting him started on applications, hoping he can figure out the rest on his own, but he would rather yell most of the time before actually calling down to do it. So he recently got hired as basically one of those people who give out samples at certain stores. Relatively easy job, but most of the training is done online. He has been trying to figure it out, but would rather expend his energy on yelling at his computer than taking the time to read what he's supposed to do. I feel guilty for not helping him, but the truth is, I'm moving out in June and won't be there to hold his hand anymore. He has to learn it on his own. So, am I the asshole for refusing to help my computer illiterate father? Okay. So I feel like we're missing some information here. OP obviously says that he and his brother are trying to teach him and that the father is A, stubborn, and B, just yells a lot. Now, I understand that this is very frustrating. However, I feel like I'm missing information on what exactly he's yelling about, where it's going wrong. A lot of, and don't cancel me for this, but a lot of men tend to take their frustration out in anger rather than being upset. So it might just be that he's actually overwhelmed and trying to cope in a very unhealthy mechanism. As somebody who does not live with their parents and still is tasked with helping them, I just have like TeamViewer set up on my grandma's phone, on my mom's phone, and all of that good stuff. And whenever something comes up, I can just dial in. And then what usually happens is I fix whatever's going on. They can continue clicking their buttons and what they do. And sometimes, especially my mom will be like, oh, what was it? How can I fix it myself the next time? And if it's easy enough, I'll just be like, oh, you need to do this and that. However, sometimes the fix is not as easy and it would just be too much for her. And I'm like, oh, just call me next time if it happens. So I feel like there could be some grace in this situation where it's like, I'm happy to do XYZ for you, but you need to learn this. However, obviously absolutely unacceptable to yell around when somebody's trying to help you, so definitely not healthy behavior from that dad. Reddit says, not the a-hole. Let's see what they replied. First comment, not the a-hole. Why would you be the a-hole for avoiding being around a highly unpleasant individual? Okay, I don't think his dad is a highly unpleasant individual in general. It sounds like your father is extremely frustrated with technology. Good news, that's not your problem. Unless you want to develop a training method that actually works for people who hate technology or are bad with it and then make millions. I feel like this is very judgmental for an older gentleman that might not know how to use technology. OP replies, oh, he definitely is. He gets pissed at his phone, only learned how to use a debit card in 2019, and can't even really keep up when we all play video games despite having every PlayStation since the first. Okay, I don't think that's a good argument. I get pissed at my phone sometimes when it does stupid stuff. I think everybody does. Let's read a couple more. NTA, honestly, he's a bit young to be so anti-computer. So this is an older Reddit thread. It's like a couple of years ago, but still, I agree. Could be the generation that actually has learned it. Depends a little bit on the upbringing and where in the world we are. NTA, but if you want to move forward, maybe it's time to lay down some boundaries. Tell him up front, I'll help you, but no yelling. I need you to be quiet, pay attention, and take notes. And if he yells, walk away. Your conditions were perfectly clear. Oh, I like this one. Okay, this is what I do with my mom, where it's like, let me fix it first, and then if you have a question, we can talk about it afterwards. Because if I'm in the middle of solving something, I do not like being barraged either, but this could be a really good fix here. Okay, seems like everybody on Reddit is the same opinion. Everyone's saying, or the Redditor, OP is not the a-hole. I don't think he's an a-hole either. I'm not sure if I think the father is an a-hole either. I think this is just probably not a good situation for both of them being in. Maybe they can just stop dealing with this. Maybe the brother can jump in. Maybe there can be another solution, an outside help that could help the father. Maybe somebody that's more of his age. Sometimes external people get differing respect than your own children. So I think that could definitely be a solution. However, I don't think anybody is really an a-hole here. Both of them should probably just step away from this situation and try to solve it in another way. I am generally inclined to say, though, that you should be helping your dad or your mom or your elder relatives, because especially in times nowadays, I think it's so hard for them to keep up with everything that's going on and like being barraged by the clankers. Like, I think it's incredibly difficult for non-digital natives to navigate this world. And so I definitely feel like we're responsible a little bit in that sense, if that makes sense. Let me know down below if you feel a different type of way, if you like this format, if we should be reading more of these AITA posts. I was thinking maybe once a month around that kind of frequency. And yeah, let me know what you think. I'm very curious on your judgments. And so is Sebastian. Hi. Leave a like and a sub if you haven't already. Both of that is free and helps my channel quite a lot. I would really appreciate it. I hope to see you guys in the next one.